Hey there, Internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. Joining me this week, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, nerds?
And we have...
there's nothing popping open.
Yeah, and we have Frank Pazhani joining us. How you doing, Frank?
Hey, doing good. How you doing, Trevor?
Doing good. Just trying to stay safe, and not go crazy from self-isolation, but just managing.
I went to the grocery store like a wild person earlier.
Ooh, how was that?
It actually wasn't that bad. I didn't have to wait in line like I thought I was going to, like outside, because that's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
But it honestly wasn't that bad.
Nice. That's I saw my aunt yesterday for a little bit, and she'd done a grocery store trip that earlier in the day, and she was like, "Yeah, it seems to finally be calming down. People are not going crazy anymore." And I know, like, I've gotten emails from Fry's, which is basically our Kroger brand in town, basically saying like, "Hey, we're limiting a lot of like the high priority items to like one per family." So I think that's helped kind of stem the tide of people going nuts. Whereas Costco has like been a normal thing in my life for many, many years, not only because I used to work there, but just like my family grew up with my dad taking us on trips to Costco. So I've still been working through like my 36 pack of toilet paper that I got for like my birthday last year or something like that. And I've got,
nice.
I want to say, like, when all of this started, I had 14 rolls remaining, and I think right now I'm sitting at 13 rolls remaining, so I'm doing just fine. I'm not.
Do you not poop?
I mean, I do, but like, especially for the first couple weeks of it, that was at work, so
that's true.
I was using their toilet paper and not having to worry about running through it on my end. So yeah,
no, I'm in a similar vein because my last day that we are allowed to go into our office, I'm working from home now.
Yep.
Same.
I think I mentioned that last week on the show. But the whole, like, basically a couple of us met at the Fry's to just kind of like say our like temporary farewells
to Fry's.
Fry's is literally like right next to my work.
Yeah. Oh, are you saying you were saying you said your farewells to like your coworkers, not like to Fry's?
Oh, not to the Fry's.
You were saying goodbye, Fry's, until we meet again.
No, we all kind of like headed over to the Starbucks to get some coffee because we all had to show up at like 6 a.m.
Gotcha.
to get our stuff, and so a bunch of us were just like, well, let's just hang out for a bit and talk and chat, and then because we all have a couple hours before we have to get actually home and put ourselves to work. So, but somebody had they're like, hey, somebody just found out that they have toilet paper here, and a bunch of people went and grabbed it. Like I still have like 3 or 4 rolls left of my package, from like a couple weeks ago, or like a couple months ago, not weeks, but like, I think actually, yeah, like Trevor, similar to Trevor, like, sometime last year. So I still have like a bunch left, and so somebody asked me, they're like, "Hey, would you basically buy this for me so that I can get 2?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." One of my buddies at work, and I did that, and he was like, "My wife is gonna be so pumped." Less hoarders and more like, it's a family, so they go through like a 6-roll package of toilet paper a lot sooner than like I would.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's fair.
And here's the thing, like, we followed all the rules. Like, I bought it myself. Like, he didn't buy it for me. Like, we did everything the way we're supposed to.
All right.
So.
Well, with that out of the way, good to know we've all got some toilet paper. A little bit of housekeeping. If you enjoy what you hear, like our toilet paper talk, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review the podcast everywhere you can. If you're feeling extra generous, you can always support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. No big deal if you can't. We get it. Times are tough right now. People are having to kind of tighten their belts a little bit. Totally get it. Totally understandable. However, I do want to thank our newest patron, Stephen Weber. Thank you, Stephen, for hopping into the That Nerdy Site Patreon. Which you can find at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. I don't remember if I said that or not. Yes, thank you, Stephen Weber, who is our newest patron. And I saw I've mentioned to the team here. I was on the trophy room this last week, and I saw in their doc that he had supported them as well. So shout out to Steven Weber, just hopping into a whole bunch of Patreons and giving them a little bit of support. So without further ado, let's dive into kind of what's new and nerdy for us. Cameron, do you want to get your Overwatch League segment out of the way first?
For sure.
Okay. Hit us with Overwatch League, which is back now.
Yeah, Overwatch League came back this weekend. They're doing it remotely for the first time ever. So it was a lot of... The approach to it was a lot different. It is an interesting thing because players are either playing from their team house or from their apartments, following through with the idea of quarantine. And a big point to make is also there were some teams that were scheduled to play that ended up not playing due to where they're located. For example, my personal team, the New York Excelsior, they're not playing at all because basically the kind of logistics of what they were planning or what they would need to do to make this work would require them to leave their central living locations, a lot of them. And it was just not that's not something that they wanted to risk during what's happening right now, especially New York City. Yeah. With New York City kind of being under lockdown, it's just been a big push to, the care and safety of the people who work for the organization as well as the players that would have to basically brave New York City's, streets they're just dealing with stuff right now with the corona. It's just wasn't ideal. And same thing for a couple of other teams in some other hotspot areas. However, there were still 6 games scheduled for the weekend that ended up coming through instead of the what was going to be the 10 games. And so we still saw some really good Overwatch. There were a lot of broadcast issues, but considering the fact that this is a broadcast team that is used to working in a central location for the past 2.5 years, to transitioning over to remote, everybody at a remote location trying to make things work, I'd say it's been pretty smooth if you take that into consideration. Some big notable things here is that right now with the meta, it's pretty much anybody's game as far as, really what's happening here. What we're seeing is a lot of new additions to a lot of teams. A lot of trades and transitions happen in the off season. Long-term players, kind of franchise known players for example, London Spitfire are now playing for the Seoul Dynasty. And Seoul Dynasty is actually playing right now against the LA Gladiators. So games are still being played. It's really good. We're really lucky because the great thing about esports is after you take these sorts of things into consideration, Overwatch League was gone for 2 weeks. So when you take that in consideration versus other sports that have been going through their situation that are also arena based, it's they made a really big pivot in the model of what they're trying to do. I think I mentioned it last week. It's really brutal that what we're seeing is what is really supposed to be the year that Overwatch League proves its model with the homestand model is definitely under fire from, it's not going to be what they wanted it to be. It's not going to be what anybody wants it to be right now, as far as anything going on right now. Things are crazy, and it shows. So Overwatch League, really cool games that got played this weekend. It feels weird that Overwatch League is back before everything else is back to normal, but it's nice to have something.
Cool.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any idea how the views are doing? Are they up or do they seem like they're down?
It's all over the place, especially because this weekend was their first transition over to.
They're back to YouTube, right? Or they're on YouTube now instead of Twitch?
They're on YouTube instead of Twitch, so their whole situation's totally different. Views are more or less the impact of views for their live show now is definitely not a massive point like it would be for Twitch. This will tell you something. Right now, the live game for Day 2, Part 2, Week 8 is currently sitting at 37,000 people watching. And that is probably, actually, I think the game's over by now. Because they were at map 2, and I kind of see Seoul taking it 3-0. Although maybe LA Gladiators bounce back, they often do. They're a great team as well. So, I don't know. Like, it depends. Like, I don't see. Like, I'm not surprised that because the times are also a bit wonky. Instead of all 6 games being played, so all 6 games today, there were 3 games that happened at like 2 in the morning, like midnight, 2 in the morning. The games that were happening over in Asia.
Mm.
And then there are these ones now, and normally what happens is that you have a block of time from about 12:30 to 6:30 p.m. that you have that 6-hour block of time that all 6 games usually get played. Usually it's 4 games getting played. So views are all over the place, and I'm not surprised that they're not high right now. It's weird. Also, the technical issues they had for the last game have been, before I hopped on the call, have been were the worst it's ever been. So
yeah, it's been interesting seeing like everybody trying to switch to the more digital model. The thing that I see, and I tweeted about this the other day, is like I love catching like the late show with Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers in particular, because they, I think, do some really great political news coverage and commentary, and so seeing how they've had to handle the shift to like working from home and digital and stuff. And Seth Meyers in his closer look videos has even kind of talked about it, is like their audio quality is like at a lower level than something like us, because they're not doing this with like podcast mics and stuff, and it's just like you guys work for CBS and NBC. I know they have resources. How have they not provided you guys with these kinds of like basic resources to do this and make this like a at least somewhat polished product? And it's a struggle that even the big guys are dealing with, because they've grown accustomed to having a studio to work with. Or our friends over at Kind of Funny, even them shifting to this model and hopping in to listen to a podcast or something and hearing like little batches of silence where it's clear Kevin is talking into his microphone, which the other guys can hear but is not being picked up by audio or something like that. It's just like, hey, we all suffer these kinds of issues. I can appreciate, and hopefully they appreciate, the stuff we're all going through a little bit more now. Because it's especially with something like Kind of Funny, where they have the luxury of everybody getting together and being able to do that, which is a luxury we obviously do not have, being spread out in multiple cities here at That Nerdy Site. It's like refreshing seeing that they suffer the same hurdles and obstacles we do, even though they've been doing this far longer. So I can appreciate that, and hopefully everybody will kind of grow and learn, and the products will get better across the board for everybody. While you were going on, I was able to hop in and knock out a couple of Nook Miles challenges. Got myself 300 new Nook Miles for chopping down some wood and talking to some friends. So thank you, Cameron. Frank, so we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. Since PAX East, you really haven't done or played or seen anything. You've been busy with work and busy moving. But we figured you could talk about some of the things that you're looking at maybe trying to hop in and play that are right around the corner. So any of those you want to highlight or specifically?
Yeah. I mean, if we have a sec here, we can definitely talk about what probably my most anticipated coming up is a Persona 5 Royale. I have it pre-ordered, and I'm waiting for the notification it shipped, but I guess it'll probably come out maybe tomorrow, because it should get here on Tuesday, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I pre-ordered through Amazon, and you know what? I can't even lie. Every time I pre-ordered through Amazon, I always see all these people be like, "Oh, it got here early." It always gets late. Like it always gets delivered at 9 p.m. or the next day. I always get screwed over on those.
When because you were saying you had to, because you just moved, you had to like reorder it basically. Um, in doing so, did were you given the option of like, hey, this isn't essential? Because I've heard that's what like Amazon is doing. I've not ordered anything through Amazon recently, so I haven't seen it myself. But they're like prioritizing, hey, these are essential items, so please deliver these like ASAP, instead of, hey, this isn't essential, just get it to me whenever you can. Did you have that option at all, or?
I didn't have that option, and I heard that they were doing the same. I heard that they were doing that, and I wonder if it, because I did that. I reordered it a couple weeks ago, and I wonder if I just made it in before it got like too bad, where they really started implementing that. So I don't know, but I wonder that that could really make it delayed too. Like that's something I'm worried about too. But I mean, I guess it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Well, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on that. So, because you played through, did you platinum it the first time around, Persona 5?
Yeah. I have the regular Persona 5 Platinum. I did that in two playthroughs, and
Yeah,
I wanted to play through it like a third time, but it was kind of hard to justify without any like trophy reinforcement. That's probably terrible to say. But I was like, now that they're doing this like kind of remastered golden style version, I think it's perfect to dive back in, you know?
yeah. No, it's I applaud you for having the I guess patience and time to do that, because I'm still like, even though it's been 3 years, I'm still like, yeah, I put 200 hours into my two playthroughs and platinum trophy on that one. I'm like, I don't really think I need to hop into it again, for the new character and their kind of like, and the updates to the story. I The people who played it, like Alex, I know, has talked very glowingly about it and loves it. So I applaud anybody who's doing that. I just need a little bit more time, especially I think I mentioned this to our friend Scott White over Rational Passions. I was talking to him earlier today, and for me, I spent, not only like I did Persona 5 200 hours, a few years ago, but last year I did 100 hours, 100 to 150 hours into Dragon Quest 11. So I'm like, I don't really need the 100-hour JRPG experience right now. I still got like a little bit of like breathing room, but it might be a game for me to hop in and like revisit, say like next January or something like that, during the presumed lull period, especially regardless, or like whatever happens with the new generation of consoles and stuff. Typically there's a little bit of a lull in the transition there, and you don't have like a ton of new games coming to the new generation of consoles right out the gate. So maybe that'll be a time for me to hop into Persona 5 Royal. But I very much look forward to hearing your thoughts about it as you dive into it here in a week or so, whenever you get to it. Cameron, are you hopping back into it?
I will, however, it'll definitely not be. It will definitely not be as soon as everybody else.
Yeah.
It'll probably be sometime after I finish and roll credits on Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, that's definitely the next one up on my real docket, probably.
Well,
because that's like a week and a half away, and like it's here, it's coming, and I'm very excited for it. But it's also important to note that when I do play Persona 5 Royale, I don't want to burn through it too quickly, because I felt like I rushed to the ending of it before when I played it for the first time back when it released a couple years ago. And I kind of want to take a moment to kind of let it breathe a little bit more, especially with all the new content that's going to be part of Royale and the changes they've made to quality of life stuff that I've been reading about. So
I was only worried about Cyberpunk, really, and once that got delayed, I was like, now I can take as much time as I need. Like, I totally understand your guys' perspective with Final Fantasy VII, but for me, that's like not even a concern. I'll take Persona over that, like anytime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally understandable. And for me, it's like Persona 5 is so much of it is like, oh well, I played through that experience. I'm more interested in seeing the changes they make to the Final Fantasy VII, or after that, Last of Us is going to be after that, and then Cyberpunk later this year. So like those are some of the big heavy hitters for me. Certainly, it is still to come. And Ghost of Tsushima's now got that's what, June is it when that's coming out? I think.
I think so.
I believe so.
So I'm still very concerned about that one. Mostly, like, it looks beautiful, but I'm like, I think this is going to be too Dark Soulsy for me. But we'll see.
Are
Go ahead, Frank.
are either of you guys gonna play Persona 5 Strikers? This like
Oh, 100%.
like because that's supposed to come out later this year as well, right? Like I think it was
Yeah.
this fall, if I have it right.
That's the Switch one. That's what like what are
It's like a Musou game, kind of like a
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors.
So I couldn't. Yeah, that's what that one is. I have almost no interest in hopping into that one now.
I'm not like a huge into that type of gameplay, and I guess I've never really played it outside of like some PS2 demos back in the day. But what I have to get like bought in for, or I guess what they've kind of sold me is that it's like it's supposed to take place after Persona 5. So in a way, this is like some weird sequel, spiritual successor to Persona 5, but you have to play it through like the Musou gameplay, and so I guess like I'm just gonna have to deal with it to see what happens.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is like, hey, this is the selling point to get you to come play it versus like, because like the Persona Q games take place like outside of time or whatever between 3 and 4, or I think, and 4 and 5 I think for Q2, but it's like those are like it's really just another story with the characters. Or I guess Persona 4 Dancing All Night would be even the better example. Like Persona 4 Dancing All Night, technically, I believe, in storyline takes place after Persona 4 Golden, but it doesn't really add anything to like anything of note to like the story of that cast of characters.
It's still a way better story than the Persona fighting games, though. Like I'll definitely die on that hill.
Excuse me, sir.
Did you play both of them?
Hells yes, I did. Are you kidding me? They're so good.
I mean, I'm not even saying they're bad or anything. I'm just saying the story in Dancing All Night, like the dancing game, is definitely way better than the story in the fighting games.
I mean, I don't know. I think the story in the second fighting game is super in depth and does a great. I think both games do a great job of kind of tying together the P3 and P4 cast in the post Persona 4 Golden era, so to speak. So, I don't know. I think it's great.
Well, you got Persona 5 Royal right around the corner, where you get
Persona 5
like
Royal.
more fleshed out with the cast of characters there. So I very much look forward to hearing your thoughts on that as you get the chance to dive in and play it there, Frank. One of the things I want to talk about a little bit is a game I picked up and played this week on PS4, and that is Creature in the Well, which came out late last year, maybe September of last year, I think, to Switch and Xbox Game Pass. Really enjoyed it back then. Played it through 100%ed it on both systems, basically. Had a good old time with it. So when they announced it was coming to PS4, I reached out to our friends over at Pop Agenda to see if I could get a code for it. Because my hope was that I would be the first to platinum it. And sadly, somebody beat me to the platinum. I have the platinum already, and the game came out Friday. I'm number 2, I think, on PSN profiles right now. But yeah, somebody got the game like a couple days ahead of me, so I was like, well, definitely couldn't beat them. It's Creature in the Well, if you are unfamiliar, is basically a pinball hack and slash, where you are playing a robot and you're trying to restore power to like a weather machine because the whole world has been overtaken by a sandstorm, and this weather machine is the only thing that might be able to clear up the sandstorm. But there's a creature that has basically placed itself in the inner workings of the machine, as well as like the well near the town, hence Creature in the Well. And so you're constantly trying to like use these like power orbs and shooting them against like basically pinball bumpers and stuff to collect energy, which you use to open doors and progress through the areas. And then at the end of each of the levels, you basically have to go through a series of like challenges against the creature as he's trying to basically mess with you. Is just his hands, really. You only ever see the creature's hands and like the eyes in the dark. It's a cool little design thing. I will say that, and I don't know if this is something that they can patch or will patch, but on PS4 there was a weird like flickering thing that like some of the environments just constantly flickered throughout the entire game, and I tried like playing through a couple times or like restarting and seeing if that like resolved it, and it did not seem to. It seems like there's just a weird thing that I was encountering where like a layer of a wall design or something, and it's always like only in the background. It's never the like the foreground or the area, the plane of existence that your character is on or whatever. It's just purely in like the environment, but it would just be like endless flickering that would just be like mildly distracting. Lasted through the entire game. Was not an issue on Switch, was not an issue when I played it on Xbox, so it seems to only be an issue in this PS4 port, so that's something to be mindful of, at least right now. I don't know if other people are experiencing it as well, but it's definitely something I encountered that hindered the performance a little bit, but overall, still a very fun, short little hack and slash kind of game. It doesn't do the greatest job, and this was an issue in the original launch as well. It doesn't do the greatest job of like telling you that you can like upgrade your character and stuff, or how to upgrade your character, where you need to go. So definitely like examine the town outside of the machine, and you'll find like the person that can help you upgrade, which will give you more power every time you're capturing like the energy ball, which makes some of the puzzles and stuff later on significantly easier. But yeah, still a very fun game. I'll try and work on a formal review for That Nerdy Site here in the next couple days. So keep an eye out for that on thatnerdysite.com. But Creature in the Well, real fun game. Might still be better to play it on one of the other systems, though. At least until they can patch this like weird little graphical hiccup. Any questions? Did either of you guys play Creature in the Well? I know Frank, you'd played it at PAX last year, PAX West. Did you pick it up when it actually came out?
No, I haven't. I did play it at PAX West, but I've been very interested in it, but I haven't picked it up yet. I have kind of been waiting for it to come to PlayStation. So yeah, it is definitely disappointing if kind of like you had that issue, and then if that is kind of like an issue with that port, or if there is just other issues with the port, that's kind of unfortunate. But I am definitely looking forward to playing it. Since I'm going to be kind of tied up with Persona, I guess maybe they'll have a little bit of time to patch it before I get to it.
Yeah, there's that. It's also something you could, if you are like ever in need of a Persona break or something like that. It'd be a nice little quick thing you could hop into, do a level, and then hop back to Persona or something. Especially since I know you're a trophy hunter. The platinum took me 5.5 hours, and that was having to take some significant breaks in there. You probably you could do it quicker. It helped that I'd already played through the game a few times, but it's no more than 8 hours probably for the platinum to go through and collect everything. Nothing's missable. There's no difficulty trophies or anything like that.
I'm totally down with that too, exactly, because I was already interested in the game, but it definitely, if it has like kind of an easy, or even not even necessarily easy, but like attainable platinum, then I'm definitely all about that.
Yeah. How about you, Cam? Did you ever play Creature?
Yes, I was not a big fan of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just not for me. I think it's a cool concept, but just isn't what I want.
That's fair
To play.
Yeah, I remember that being some of the criticisms and stuff, is that like it's an interesting idea that maybe doesn't push it far enough or something like that. It worked for me, especially once I got over the hurdle of realizing I could power up my character and the difference that made. You can also you get different weapons basically that have different abilities and stuff, and sometimes mixing and matching in those will give you a much better feel for the game. So it worked for me, but yeah, I recognize it's not for everybody. Cameron, let's throw it back over to you to talk about Final Fantasy XIV. You've been playing that some more.
Yeah, I've been playing it off and on for a little bit. I took a big break right before PAX and only really started getting back into it as I kind of needed to do something that let me escape for more than a couple hours. It's something that I could like essentially like working from home. I've realized is like I like it better than like I don't like my job. I'll just put that out there. If you work with me, you already know this. I'm not shy about not liking my job. Do my job well enough that I haven't been fired, and I am told that people are happy with my performance. So that's been a thing. But having to work from home has caused some weird things to start happening. Where I thought, I'll like for the first week, I would say I was super productive. As far as not just my work, but also like everything else going on. That I have like shifted into a weird routine now where it's a bit wonky. Like days are starting to blend into each other. It's gotten a bit much, but something that I realized, a couple of things that I realized are good for pulling me out of that kind of funk is one, playing Final Fantasy 14 because it's something to do, and then I can also have like something that I'm watching off to the side while I kind of do menial quests and stuff like that, and it lets me kind of like decompress outside of like everything else going on outside in the world. And the other thing I realized is driving. Just like the other night, I got in my car and I just drove for a little bit. I drove around for maybe like an hour and a half, just driving, and it kind of like it opened me up a bit, got me out of that weird headspace. And so I'm feeling much better now. I was able to kind of this last week kind of start putting some effort back into some stuff. But Final Fantasy 14 Shadowbringers especially, I leveled a paladin from level 1 to 30 on a server, so I can start playing with some friends over there. And then recently got back into my main character, who I've been playing long term for. Oh my gosh, how long have I been playing? How long have I been playing Final Fantasy 14?
I mean, I don't know.
2 years?
When did you hop into it? Did you hop into it same time I did, or had you already been playing it?
Yeah, like a little bit before you did.
Yeah, probably about 2 years. Because it was,
I
remember it was, I was talking with Lauren about it at Kind of Funny Prom, like that week, basically.
Oh, that's what got me into it. We all, like, you talked to her about it, and, like, she talked to me about it, and she's like, yeah, a bunch of people are, like, gonna, like, once they get back, are gonna hop on and start playing. I was like, well, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah, so that was, about a year and a half ago. Or, closer to 2 years ago now that it's March. For some reason I keep thinking it's, like, January or something still.
It's literally almost April. So I think that's also been a big thing, is that, like, March has flown by because of this weird, like, funk I put myself into, but I bounced back hard. Finally, I'm getting around to two of the hardest pieces that I've kind of been repeatedly working on from PAX. The Yacht Club games and also Welcome to Elk. Welcome to Elk has been one of the most odd pieces I've ever written.
It's your Moby Dick.
I wouldn't say it's my Moby Dick so much as it's just like because you and I talked about it, and I said, I'm struggling writing a traditional preview for it, and you told me, well, then don't. And I kind of explored a couple of different ways of writing it, and I finally decided on like a testimonial. And so if I haven't been playing Final Fantasy 14 and watching YouTube clips, watching YouTube videos, I've probably been working on that piece, just writing it. I think I've written it in like 5 or 6 different ways. Like I'll get like halfway through writing it at one point, and then I trashed it and then started over again, just because like I got to a point. This most recent one I shared to be edited and looked over is probably the final way that I want to approach it, but we'll see, because I've done this without any feedback so far. So, but Final Fantasy 14, I know that I'm supposed to be focusing more on that, but it's Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers is really good. I'm at the point where I just beat the Fairy Queen, which means nothing to anybody here on this podcast.
No.
But those of you out there know I just beat Titania's trial, and I had to finish leveling up to level 74 so that I could keep the quest going, and did that by just like repeating one of the dungeons right before we started podcasting. So it's a good game. It's a good time.
Yeah, that's like I talked about this on briefly on that Ultimate Video Game List show because we talked about it a little bit there because Aaron Mahler has been playing it, who's on season 2 here of Video Game List show, and I was talking about how like I really loved what I played of it. I just once it got to the part where I had to start doing quests with like 4 people or whatever, playing as a paladin as I was, which is a tank character. I went into those encounters feeling terrible because I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. So I felt like I was holding back the randos that I was playing with, and just because of time and everybody else's busy life and stuff, I couldn't hop in with like my dedicated, here are the people I'm playing with kind of thing that would have alleviated that stress. But loved what I played of Final Fantasy 14. Just hit that wall of it being an MMORPG that I was like, I wish I could just keep doing this as single player stuff.
I will say one thing I really have enjoyed is, for example, before our podcast call, I was playing by myself through a dungeon. In Shadowbringers, they brought in the aspect of what's called the trust system, which essentially you have other members of this, Scions of the Seventh Dawn, join you as your party members, basically. And they fulfill the roles that you don't fill. So, like, I was with Alice, Urianger, and Minfilia in running through this dungeon instead of, like, 3 other people, like 3 other players out in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's nice because you don't have to worry about sharing loot. So any loot you get, you keep.
Yeah.
That's great. But yeah, no, it's been, I wish they would do a rollback and put that trust system through the rest of the game, but I don't know if it's even possible at this point. Like, that's a big ask, I think.
Yeah. How it's all been designed and how easy it would be to just implement. Okay, let's put AI into every mission.
Yeah. It's like you'd basically have to rework every single dungeon in that game, and there are a lot of dungeons, and I can see how implementing more AI into it could be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially since some of the mid-game dungeons require like human input to like deal with stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one that really broke me. I remember was it was a mission where we went through. I don't remember, like we were in a house or something like that, and we reached a point where like we beat somebody and then everybody disappeared, and I was like, I don't know where did the rest of my party go? And they had like basically it was you had to go into the menu and like go back to the beginning of the thing because a door had opened or something, and I didn't know how to do that or what to do until I started seeing them like put it in the messaging, and I was like, oh, okay. Now I was running around like looking for everybody for like a good 5 minutes of this thing before they finally were like, God, we got to get this guy. Where did he go?
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled me into it, and I was just like, I would never have like known to do that, so, or never would have thought to do that. So it was just one of those. I was like, nope, that's not my cup of tea right there. But other than that, really enjoyed it. It very much was a like love letter to like Final Fantasy fans and stuff.
It still is.
Good very much still
it's
is.
Nice to tell you that.
Cool. Speaking of Final Fantasy, Frank, one of the other games you're looking at, you're not necessarily super eager to hop into FF7 Remake, but you are looking at maybe hopping into the Final Fantasy VI, following our first season of that Ultimate Video Game List show. So what kind of tell us about what is bringing about that idea?
Yeah, well, so since I finally just finished moving and I got everything all sorted, I've been looking for something to play now that like I have a little bit more time finally again. And I was kind of thinking that like that list really heavily coincides with games I do want to play, and like a lot of them I've played, or some of them I've already beaten, some of them I've just played a little bit, and some of them I've never touched. But I figured like since some of it like heavily coincides with what I'm trying to replay, I might as well just dive in and try to make that my my gaming resolution for like this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm basically going to try to work my way through the list of those 20 games. And one of the ones I was definitely considering, I think I might start with, I guess I won't go in order, but I think I'm going to dive into Final Fantasy VI because I just have it. It's one of the ones I just have available to me right now that I could pick up like tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely recommend it if the I did the RPG University with Scott White over at Irrational Passions, and one of the features of that show is you go through and you kind of give like a tip for like starters or like people who are just hopping into playing this for the first time. And I think the tip that I gave was basically like, don't be afraid to use a guide,
Yeah.
because this is a game that was designed 20 or almost 25 years ago or something like that. And I, when I was playing it originally, I was poring over, Nintendo Powers or official strategy guides and stuff that was telling me where to go and everything to do. And it doesn't hold your hand. So if you miss like the line of dialogue that says where you're supposed to go next, it's not going to give you a waypoint or anything. So you're otherwise going to be like lost. Don't feel any shame for using a guide to hop in and play that to help kind of walk you through the direction of that game would be my primary tip for a starter for what was for the longest time my favorite game of all time, and obviously is still like my number two basically after God of War. So
I,
yeah, I
I
hope you enjoy it.
I appreciate that as like a veteran of the series because that was definitely like what I was kind of like thinking. But just because like it's going to take me at least 5 times as long if I don't, or like even if I finish it, like
Yeah,
I'll just be lost, or like I'll probably miss some important things. And so yeah, I don't. I guess I should mention, or if it gives any more background or anything, the only Final Fantasy I've played like all the way through is 15.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, I've played like 7 and 6, and I believe maybe 9 for like a little segments, but never like a lot of time. So I am curious to kind of dive in, and this would be my first kind of like 2D kind of like old school version of Final Fantasy. But I know a lot of people like it's your second favorite of all time, and I know it's a lot of people's favorite, just like in the series. So I'm kind of
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, I definitely would be eager to hear what you think about that one too. Because it's especially like for a game like that was my favorite growing up and holds such a special place. Like it being on something like the SNES Classic and available to people, and maybe it'll eventually come to. I think it's eventually going to be in the Xbox collection of Final Fantasy games that they're bringing over and all that stuff. It's fun getting to see people like come to it now for the first time, even if they don't have like the glowing reaction I want them to have. Like Brandon Gann, our friend over at Games Gann on Twitter, he famously tried playing it and just did not click with him like a year or two back, and I was like, oh, it's a bummer, but I can appreciate that it is a game for a very different time. So if it doesn't click with you, don't worry about it. Don't feel bad. It 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 is what it is.
Have you played the PlayStation version, like the one that's on, I guess whatever version would be on like PS4 or Vita,
I
which I
don't think
think is
there's a
just like a
version on
PS1 port?
PS4 unless it gives the PS1 port. I don't think is playable on PS4 unless maybe you're playing through like PS Now. I don't know. I haven't checked that library. But like yeah, I played it on Vita and on the PS3, playing that PS1 classic version. And the thing I always say on that is because the original game was cartridge based versus the disc based version of the PS1. PS1 has a little bit more loading time in between like every battle.
Hmm.
It was a much smoother process on the SNES, as well as the in my opinion like the definitive way to play it is the Game Boy Advance version,
Hmm.
because it was still cartridge based, but they tweaked and added a little bit of extra stuff to it over the years. But yeah, so if you were to go like the PS1 version versus like the SNES Classic version, I would say play it on SNES Classic. But the PS1 version is fine as well. You'll just have to deal with a little bit a little bit longer loading screens than you would think you should have to do for this day and age. So that would be my only caveat there.
I'll probably go with the SNES Classic version, just based on like what I have available to me. But I was just like, I was considering it because it wouldn't be bad to have like portable on Vita. And but the bigger thing I was wondering too is because I know with like Final Fantasy VII, some of the other ones that are like remastered, you can like fast forward. But if that's just the PS1 port, it's not going to have that. So there's like no point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those like the PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy IX all have that lovely extra feature where you can fast forward, and even like even 12, when they did the Zodiac Age version of Final Fantasy 12, they added in like, yeah, you can fast forward through combat and stuff, which is a feature I would love to see any of these remastered games getting, for people that don't have the patience or time to grind like we used to when we were kids or something like that. But yeah, the PS1 port of it that you can play on your Vita is not going to have that functionality. They might have something like that if you play it on Steam, but I don't know. I can't speak to that.
And
That's like one of the few versions of that game I do not have. Or actually, I might have it, but I've never played it.
From what I understand, it is the mobile version.
Yeah, that's what I understand too. I just don't know if they added that functionality into it.
But I'm excited though. I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm gonna honestly just choose that and dive in like this week. It's funny. I guess I'm gonna be playing two RPGs at the same time, so we'll see how this goes. But like,
Yeah, very, very old school versus very new school.
I'm just curious to like I said, I'm gonna try to work my way through that list, and like I'm always playing older stuff in between like bigger releases. So this is just kind of like somebody else, or I guess what I should say is like you guys helped, build the list of what I should do. So I don't know. I'm just gonna run with it, and we'll kind of check back in throughout the year, I guess.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Very cool. Quick little couple pair of things I want to talk about. So Cameron and I did an episode of that D Plus show on Gravity Falls last week, and I've continued watching through. I watched like the rest of season 1 of Gravity Falls, really enjoying that show on Disney Plus, and then I have finished at this point the new series of Ducktales.
Great
Still
show.
need to reach out to some people to get on that D Plus show to talk about that one. And then it was weird because the strongest memories I have of the original DuckTales are for the DuckTales movie, which I watched repeatedly when I was growing up, I'm sure. And so I threw that on Disney Plus like yesterday or something, and that is a trip to go back to, because it is basically just like DuckTales meets Aladdin, but pre-Aladdin, and so even the genie is like. Rip Taylor is who's playing the genie character in the DuckTales version. So it's like the budget version of what they would end up doing with Robin Williams years later. And it's just a really, really weird movie to go back to, especially in the context of the new DuckTales that does they have a much more dedicated target towards like making Huey, Dewey, and Louie all individual characters. And the original series did not at all. Like they are a trio of people that are completely palette swappable, and it hurts, I think, them a little bit. So just a little DuckTales and Gravity Falls update on that front. I think we can probably wrap up a little bit here with like if you have, Cameron, you have Brave Exvius and Ashen Wolves that you wanted to also mention, but I think we can kind of finish with some updated thoughts on Animal Crossing. So if you want to do like a quick pass of Brave Exvius and Ashen Wolves, hit us with what you got there.
They're both good. Play them.
Brave Exvius, that's the mobile one, right?
Yeah, it's the mobile Final Fantasy game they just launched, War of Visions. It's very, very good. Reminds me immensely of like a flavor of Final Fantasy Tactics that is just very good.
Interesting, because when I played it, it did not feel like a tactics like game.
I will say it's like I'm referring to like the story and world.
Oh, okay, yeah,
the story and world feel very Tactics-esque.
Gotcha. Okay,
and it's very nice.
Yeah, I played because I really liked Final Fantasy Record Keeper for what that game was. for a long time, and until I played Final Fantasy 14, I scoffingly wrote that Final Fantasy Record Keeper was my favorite Final Fantasy in the last decade. But yeah, Final Fantasy 14 is easily a better game than that. So when they and I played Record Keeper like every day for like 2 years or something like that. And then Brave Exvius came out, and I still kept playing Record Keeper for a little while, but I hopped into Exvius 2, which was certainly more like action focused, I think. But it just I feel like I reached a wall on Exvius where they clearly wanted me to start spending money for it, and I was like, that's not what I'm looking to do for this game. So yeah, I hopped out of that one pretty early on, I think. Maybe I only stuck with it for like a month or two. But cool that it's still out there kicking and doing some good stuff.
Yeah, War of the Visions does not really have that, like, at all. It's very clear that they're like, if you want to like unlock more people and do this, then yeah, you can spend more money, but like as far as like energy stuff and being able to play through the game, not like there's no problems. You do not have to pay for a dime if you don't want to.
Cool.
It's very nice.
That just remind me. I've also like I still play Disney Emoji Blitz like every day, and right now they're in the middle of a Mulan like event that clearly was originally timed for Mulan movie coming out that that has been delayed. So I wonder how many other of those kinds of things we'll see in the future, where it's like, oh well, we already had like plans in place, so here's the Mulan stuff. Sorry. But anyway, tell us about the Ashen Wolves expansion of Fire Emblem.
So the great thing about the Ashen Wolves expansion is that it does not require you to play through the campaign again.
Oh, okay.
Totally
nice.
Side part. It's a total side thing. The thing is, if you're playing through the campaign for the first time, taking a moment to do Ashen Wolves as it unlocks is fun because they start interacting with like the surface world and everything, and they can become recruitable like any other students from any other house. But the biggest point is that if you just want to play the Ashen Wolves content, you are 100% able to, because it starts off with you. And here's a really cool thing about it. You get to play with Claude, Dimitri, and Edelgard together, like the first mission you do. Mm-hmm. But now you get to see them at their, I think it's their second level, like second tier promotions. So Dimitri is a paladin, Edelgard is a fortress knight, and Claude is a wyvern rider. And you can switch up depending on how you want to do it. And you get one person from each of their house. So it's, and that's just like, that's how you start off the game. That's how you start off the like DLC content. From there, you get to like meet and recruit the Ashen Wolves. They're all very cool characters. In that the idea of the underground is essentially, this is where people who aren't necessarily like terrible people, who basically, it's like if you're somebody who's an outcast from society and you don't want to cause problems for society, you go to this underground and basically you can eke out a life. So for example, some people practice a non-Fodlan related religion. And so they go to the underground to worship. Not in any like nefarious way, but in a way that if they did it publicly, it would get them censured, or it would cost them some sort of social currency, as far as like people would know that they're a pagan. Mm-hmm. You have that, as well as like people who are like wanted. Like one character in the Ashen Wolves is wanted by numerous bounty hunters. He has a lot of debt. He's been like done some like Robin Hood-esque banditry in the past. Like, he is a character like that, and so he is hiding out in the underground. And the Ashen Wolves are made up of kind of young people who are given a purpose and organization underneath them to basically be a positive reinforcement in this underground. And they're unofficial house because of their circumstances, but also because the underground is something that's looked down upon by the church itself. But Rhea and the other church officials don't necessarily want to like get rid of it because it serves a purpose. So it's a cool dynamic. It's a cool area to explore. New challenges as far as enemies go. That's really cool. I thought that the idea of like, I recently had to do a survival one that was not as hard, but definitely like difficult to navigate through, even though I'm playing on a normal difficulty. And it's just great. It's a fun game. It's a great game, or it's a fun piece of content. The characters are all really cool and interesting, and I can't wait to kind of play more through it when my life is not being sucked in by Final Fantasy 14 and Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
and 7.
That's and yeah, Final Fantasy 7 next week.
Soon it will.
That's one like that's another one like Persona 5 Royal, where like I'm still too close to the couple hundred hours that I put into Animal Crossing and my 2.5 playthroughs of that game, that I just don't want to hop into, or not Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, that I don't want to dive immediately back into that for this kind of side content thing. So, but it is something that I will be eager to check out when I have the itch to go back and play that game in 6 months or something like that. So very cool. And then let's round out, since clearly Animal Crossing is already on my mind. Let's round out with some Animal Crossing. And Frank, you haven't had a chance to play any more than you did at PAX East yet on this one, but you've kind of been keeping your ear to the ground on it and seeing what people have been doing. You've just been too busy to hop in.
Exactly, and I can't wait. Like, that's definitely around the corner, probably, I guess, after Persona. Like, that's going to take priority for me. But so I hope I don't miss out on like all the fun, but I'm definitely due for an island vacation at some point.
Yeah, it's a nice one if you're looking for something, like, since you can reach a point like where you're basically like, okay, I've done everything I need to do today. Like, you could do that, and then you could go and play other things. So this could be the secondary game that you're playing, if you want to do that. And you can just kind of do here are the things I need to do today to make sure that things progress tomorrow, versus, like, the way I'm playing it is probably far too much of, I'm just going to go and grind and go to a whole bunch of random mystery islands and try and, like, get as many bells as I can. And then, like, I've already got, at this point, I've got the upstairs to my house. So I think I've only got, like, the downstairs. Like, I've got, like, 1 million bells to pay off for that upstairs upgrade. And then I think I can get the downstairs after that and have, like, the 2.5 million or whatever for that debt. And then I honestly don't know what is after that, if there is any kind of upgrade, or if I pay that debt off and I'm done. But I've got a couple of bridges built. I've got an incline, my first incline that's going to go in tomorrow morning, where I don't have to, like, climb a ladder up to my first level of the mountaintops and stuff. I've got the Able sisters that are about to, like, set up shop tomorrow. I've got, like, 6 people on my island now. Yeah, I got my first, like, new guest from the campsite that just moved in today, Zell. He is a gazelle. He seems like he might be trouble, based on, like, my limited conversation with him. But I'm like, I'll give you a shot, dude, but don't piss me off. And then I've been... Today, in particular, as we're recording this, our friend of the show, Zyger, invited me over to his island because he had gotten a pair of pixel glasses, and I was like, well, I need those. I clearly need those in the game. So I got those added to my character, and then Aaron Mahler, who both of them are on this season of Video Game List Show. Aaron hooked me up with a beard. So now I have basically my little Animal Crossing dude. Has the red pixel glasses, just like, our logo. He has, like, dirty blonde beard and hair like me. I redesigned using the, like, custom pro designer thing. I took the Trevor Trove logo. So basically Pixel Trevor, that is basically just the telemodel from Final Fantasy 2 or Final Fantasy 4, and recolored that to look like me with that little pixel style. So he's on my shirt, and then I got, like, just whatever pants and sneakers on. So I'm like, now I've got my look. Now I am Trevor in this game, and I'm still just having a ton of fun with it. Lauren and I went and visited one of our other friends in our Discord today because he had like a super good price on turnips. So I got those. So I'm like all stocked up for the stock market this coming week. I bought 2,000 turnips today that I look forward to trying to make some money off of in the next week. As the stock market does not mirror our own. And yeah, I'm just having a ton of fun with it, which given that I was pretty lukewarm on it from PAX, as you know, Frank, because we had our conversation about it. I'm still like super all in, and I'm just having a great time with Animal Crossing, building up my island. I took like a day. I took basically, I think, either Friday or Saturday, and I just like moved all the trees around. So I've got like a section of my island is my orchard, where I've got basically like my row of peach trees, my row of orange trees and apple trees and cherry trees and pear trees, and then money trees. I took like all of my other tree types that are not fruit bearing, and I just kind of put them in a line. So I've got like a little forest section, which, as I realized I was going to start having to add like other houses, I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to deforest that section of the island, and that's where I'm going to like develop out my rows of houses for new guests and stuff in the coming weeks. But yeah, I think I've got like all of the March critters and fish that I can catch in the northern hemisphere, so I'm just having a great time with it. How about you, Cam?
Well, I visited your island the other day.
Yes, yeah, you did. Came and saw before it got kicked.
Yeah.
You saw my little lawn gnomes in the waiting by the campfire kind of thing, keeping warm by the campfire. I appreciate that you appreciated that.
Of course, I mean it's art.
Yeah.
It was just pure art. Like when I tweeted out that I visited your island, I used that screenshot that I took of it, where I said, "Now this is art."
Yeah.
I think that your island is incredibly, like, I definitely want my island to have a bit more of a wild aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
When I set up people's campgrounds, I made sure they were like far away from each other. That quickly got revised when I realized I had to put 3 new people in.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, because the first 5 people you get, basically, it's like, okay, well, you're limited in the space of the island that you can put them, just because you have like a bridge at that point, so you've got maybe access to half your island that you can put them on.
So yeah, I actually really have enjoyed getting the. So I have my 3 neighbors that moved in. I have Draco the dragon. I have Apple the. I don't know if it's a bear or a chipmunk. Can't tell. Because he talks about like nuts sometimes, but he looks like a little miniature bear. And so I'm like, you know what? Whatever you are, man, I'm happy that you're here. And he's super excited to be there. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
And then, who's the last person who just moved in this morning? I think it was I want to say it was the rabbit, maybe? I'm not sure. I honestly just asked her to come to move to my island. She was like the third person I talked to, but it was kind of like, oh wow, your island sounds super cool. It's like, yeah, you can come by, I guess. Why not come move into my island? And so I was actually surprised how easy it was to kind of like, once I started working into the DIY stuff, getting all their stuff put together, like I was like, wow, this is actually a lot more simple than I thought it would.
Yeah.
It actually took me longer to get them to move in based off of like moving one in a day.
Yeah.
Than it was putting everything together for.
Yeah, I had, because I'd gotten like tipped off a little bit on that by listening to one of the reviews that Joey Noel was on, I think with Game Explain. So I was like, I knew that I was going to have to at some point build 3 buildings and then like furniture for those 3 buildings. So I had like plenty of supplies stocked up, and I think I knocked out all of those items in like an hour.
Yeah, it's I'm actually really happy with the DIY stuff. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed what I've been doing, but I think probably my favorite thing that has happened so far is has really just been the growing my island bit by bit. I've put in a couple different types of trees. I have apples, pears, and coconuts now. I'm not really like rushing to try to get all the trees or all the stuff there, what I really want to do, and I've been doing this a lot, is trying to go to Tarantula Island.
Yeah.
I want to go to Tarantula Island. I have not gone yet. I have not gotten there. I keep on going to places that look like my island or have the same stuff as my island.
Yeah.
But I realized that if I bring enough fruit with me, I can take all the trees from the island and then sell them for a pretty decent profit. I think I got like 20, like I want to say like 20K for like a bunch of trees.
Nice.
That I just like took with me back.
Yep.
It was super simple. I have the Porcupine Sisters are moving in 2 days. I just laid down their plot today, put it right next to the Nook's Cranny, so they're right by each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm really I paid off my tent as well as my initial house, so now I have the bigger house. I'm wanting to kind of like upgrade my house more and more, and that's going to require me to get more money, and that is only going to be made possible if I can start really working on getting more bells. And I think that's where my priority is right now, is figuring out ways to get more bells and get ahead of the game and to start unlocking more and more of my house, because I actually have a lovely house. I have it right in between one of my rivers as well as a pond, and I have surrounded it with just a ton of flowers, and I have a great bonfire with a rock stool next to it, and I have fencing, like wood fencing around my entire area, and I have trees, a bunch of different trees. Like, I have a beautiful home that I love and adore, and I just want to see it grow, and I want to see this island grow, and man, I have fallen deeply, deeply in love with this game.
Yeah, the one of the things I've been doing the last couple of days, as I basically like cleared out all of my trees and put them in like the areas of the map that I wanted, it left like a big old open spot on my main starter section, basically where most of my tenants are, and Nook's Cranny and the resident services are, and all that stuff. And so that was around the same time I learned about crossbreeding flowers and stuff. And so I basically started like throwing out all of the flowers that I have, and I've got on my island, I've got like hyacinths are kind of like my base flower, and then pansies and wildflowers are like the other two that are usually in my shop. At some point I like stumbled on tulips, so I've got tulips. And then just today when I was visiting Aaron's island, he had roses, and that was the first time I'd seen roses anywhere. So
Oh, really? I have a ton of roses on my
nice.
island. My house is surrounded by them.
Nice.
I love running through them because eventually the leaves fall off.
Yeah, that was. I remember
they blow up.
Yeah,
and I love it.
Yeah, you destroyed a couple of my flowers when you were running around my island yesterday. I saw that too. Right around the same time that you were like mentioning like I'm gonna go do crimes now. I was like trampling my azaleas, even though azaleas is not actually a flower type in the game. But
listen, I expected to be able to do a lot more crime on your island, and I'm locked out of being able to use like my tools. So
yeah,
I did.
Probably for the best.
So yeah, we now that because I think we became best friends after you left. I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, now if you came back, you'd be able to use like your shovel and stuff, and I would immediately try and like kick you from my island. But yeah.
Here's the thing. What I wanted to do was I wanted to just like. In the because you have wonderfully lined up, like you mentioned it earlier, but you've lined up like these rows of trees and flowers and all this sorts of stuff. I wanted to just like I would have like taken them and like put them other places, but I wanted in the plots to spell out like Cam rules or Trevor sucks or something like that.
Yeah, I figured as much. So
like listen.
Gonna keep that in mind next time I offer to open up my my gates. Just be like, do I really want Cameron here? No.
I mean, that's a fair question that anybody should ask with whatever I'm in, like whether it's game or real life. Like that's a question everybody should ask themselves. Like, do I want Cameron here? And if the answer is no, like then don't worry, I get it. I know who I am.
But yeah, the one of the mystery islands I went to the other day had like pink and blue wildflowers, which you can normally only get through crossbreeding, and I just hadn't gotten any of those yet. So I had already gotten like plenty of the other stuff that was on that island. So I basically just took 10 of each of them back with me, and planted them. And when I've been going to other people's islands today, like when I went to get turnips for a cheap price, or when I went to Zyger's, or when I went to Aaron's Island, I basically took a pair of each of those with me, and like that was what I gave as like my, hey, thanks for giving me pixel glasses, or thanks for giving me a beard, or whatever. And I just planted a couple of those wildflowers on each island. And one of the guys, Eddie, who I was able to get the turnips from, he already reached out and was like, hey, thanks for like dropping those off, because now a new butterfly shows up. Like the peacock butterfly only shows up if you have like blue or purple flowers. They don't show up if you've got like only the the generic whites or reds or yellows or something like that. So now he's got a new butterfly type on his island, and I was like, yay. So yeah, it's just a very fun, heartwarming kind of game. I'm super enjoying it, and I'm still like occasionally breaking away from that to go play like a level of Doom. But I'm it's very weird, because if you'd asked me like 2 weeks ago, are you gonna like go through Doom all in one sitting, or are you gonna like which are you gonna put more time into? I would have thought I was gonna put more time into Doom, and I just have not. It's just been like, nope, Animal Crossing is just nice little comfort food kind of game. Really enjoying that one. So yeah. Any thoughts from you, or anything you're excited to hop into when you get into it, Frank?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know what my first thing I'll be kind of excited for is. I guess the best thing will be just kind of going to visit other people's islands, kind of like even you guys were talking
Committing
about.
crimes, yeah.
Like, it'll be fun. I mean, I was just trying to get collectibles and do like cribs and see what people had going on. But like, I think that'll be probably one of the more fun aspects. That's what I hope people are still on and kind of active when I get into it. And I am looking forward to also filling up that museum. But that's one of the things I always get into.
Yeah. One of the things I saw when Kind of Funny was doing their cribs video, where they went from Greg's Island to Joey's Island, and then to Andy's Island. Andy had in his house, he had dynamic wallpaper.
Yeah, that's so
which
awesome.
I had not seen, and I was like, God damn, that looks really cool. And I have not like, Sahara has been to my island, but I didn't see their video until after she'd already been by, so I didn't know what to maybe try and like get from her.
She did not have any of that sort of stuff
so,
when
like,
she visited my island.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her thing is like RNG, I believe, if it's still the same as it was before. And I've never had any luck with her. She always gives me garbage, but it sounds like she has amazing stuff now.
Well, she didn't give me garbage, but like the stuff she was able to like sell me was like not dynamic stuff. Like, it was good stuff. Like, I bought like my current floor and wallpaper are from her. Like, they're excellent choices, but like, I got blue marble floor and blue wood paneling.
Nice. Yeah, I think she basically sells you mysterious flooring and mysterious wallpaper, which is going to be RNG, and then she'll sell you like rugs. And if you buy enough rugs, you'll get like exchange tickets, and you can use those to exchange in for something else kind of thing as well, for another one of the others. But yeah, so I like, I read early on of like the tip of like, hey, buy everything, because once you've bought it, it's in your catalog, and then you can rebuy it if you like. You can get rid of it, but you can always rebuy it if you want. So I've been doing like that, and so like every day at Nook's Cranny, I'll go through and like buy everything I can, if I don't already have it.
Just a billionaire over here.
Exactly, because I have made it to Tarantula Island a couple times, and one time in particular, like the last time, I haven't been able to get there like the last few days. And just as I don't know if I'm sure you're already aware, Cam, but you can't get to Tarantula Island until after 7 p.m. That's when it like opens up, because it's a nighttime only kind of thing. But the last time I was there, I basically was like, I kept catching them, and I was like, you know what? I don't need. I can rebuy or rebuild all of these tools that I usually bring with me for less money than the 8,000 bells I'll get if I just dump my shovel and put a tarantula in that spot. So I basically did it for every tool I had except for the net, and so I had like, and I think I already had all my pockets upgraded. So I think I had 4 rows basically of tarantulas and 1 bug net, and that was what I brought back with me to sell off the next day. And I was like, yeah, I like that. So made a ton of money on that, and that's what has largely helped me pay off all of my my house payments so far. So yeah, really enjoying Animal Crossing. Definitely recommend if people are sitting on it. It's just especially and obviously it will forever be tied as the like coronavirus game, but it is just a very nice, refreshing kind of like experience when you are, stuck indoors if you're self-isolating and all that kind of stuff. It's a nice thing to just be able to hop in and do, and especially like I said last week, playing through it with like friends in a Discord chat where we're all kind of sharing, our new things or new ideas and stuff, or finding out from Zyger that there are pixel glasses in this game and he lets me come and get them. Like this is the most social I've probably ever been in a game, and I'm really enjoying that. It's nice.
One thing I will say is that if you are a time traveler, if you are tilting things forward and going forward in time and doing that, you are wrong to do so. I
don't think I'm going to do it in the Switch version, but I definitely
embarrassed
on
because
the GameCube.
I thought Joey Noelle is so far forward. Her island looks amazing because earlier that day I had seen somebody who had like a fully like industrialized like street car, like cars and streets and like street lamps and houses all over the place. Like it had been like that level of like mind buggery that I had seen, that when I saw like some just like nice little area, I was like, oh, that Joey could totally be there right now because she got the game weeks ahead of us. And then to find out, like, they were just in the museum. And it's like, you know what?
Yeah, she was just in the bug section of the museum.
That's fair, but I'm embarrassed. But the only reason I thought that is because if you're a time traveler, I mean, I'm not saying that, like, you are a bad person. What I'm trying to say is that I will never trust you. You are a like, deceitful it's one of those... person, and how dare you? Anyway.
I don't fault anybody who wants to time travel, but I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm like, I'm enjoying playing the game at the pace that it's rolling out. And I do like that they have, things in place where, hey, even if you're a time traveler, you can't get to the Bunny Day event that's coming out next week because it hasn't been, it's going to be introduced in a patch, as basically DLC kind of stuff moving forward. So, I love that there's still going to be like events tied that like, are not tied at all to like you could time travel if you want, but it's not going to be there. Yeah, I'll be interested to see Frank when you come in, because like there's a lot of people right now rushing here at the end of March to try and catch like the fish that are going to go away in March, or the bugs that won't be there in when April rolls around. So I'll be curious kind of like your experience when you hop in of like, oh well, it's cool that you guys have these fish, but because they were March fish, you won't be able to get them right out the gate unless you have like friends in the Southern Hemisphere and you can, play on their islands or something like that.
And that's something that I think is actually pretty cool, because like before, or I guess even with all the other versions, you would kind of get locked out unless you did some time traveling, which I definitely did back in the day. But now, like, I don't plan on doing the time travel thing now. But it's cool that like there is people I know in like other hemispheres, and I can just go to their islands and kind of explore around. Like I think that's something that that's really cool that you're able to do now.
Yeah, or I mean, if you want to, you could even set yourself up as a Southern Hemisphere island when you hop into the game, and basically just live on the opposite time zone kind of approach of things. Because the only I went to NATO's island very briefly. Like I showed up, his doors were open one day, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know it was NATO until I got there, basically." But I was like, "Oh, whose island is open? Cool, let me hop over." And then like shortly after I got there, I didn't even have a chance to do anything before like connection issues kicked me or whatever. But I was like, "Oh, I have friends that live in Australia, so maybe I can visit Southern Hemisphere islands." In the weeks to come. So,
you saw it was on fire, and you immediately came back home.
I mean, well, I kept joking. I made this joke last week too, but like Tarantula Island, I just call Little Australia whenever I go there. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I wonder, because I don't know when, I have not looked to see like when scorpions are, because one of the things I saw was like, yeah, there's Tarantula Island or Scorpion Island if you're in the other hemisphere, and I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about Scorpion Island yet. That's gonna suck. But yeah. Very fun. Animal Crossing is a good game. very very endearing. I'm looking forward to continuing to play that here and there over the weeks and months to come. So
As a big fan of
Cool.
the series for like a long time, I'm very happy to see people, you know, this is their like first one they're diving in on, or just it's so successful now, especially I guess it just hit at the right time, or like so many factors going into it. But it's awesome to see so many people just enjoying the series that like I've been
yeah.
following like for a long time.
Yeah, one of the other things that I did when I was like moving all my trees around and everything is I took. There's some people that have like just made these as like QR code things that you can download. I took somebody's basically like pixel version of it and just made them my own. Like I made them in the game, because if you download a QR code, you can't like modify it or anything. You're stuck with what is there. So I for myself I designed basically like each of the fruits, so that I can spray in like in the front of the line for my orchard. I can basically say this is my row of peach trees, and I can basically spray on the ground the peach icon, or the apple icon or the pear icon, so that when I've already picked the trees, I know still, okay, this is my row of orange trees if I need to go in and like plant a new orange tree or something like that. It's and I do the same with like my money trees. And actually, I think I did this just as a extra cautionary tale. But when you came over, Cameron, I think I had like kicked out the dust for my money trees to hide that they were money
really?
trees.
Is that what you did?
Because I
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. Because I was like, I don't want him digging up my money trees and taking them back with me with him.
Like, listen, if they were money trees, I would not have done that, because that's just like I would not have done that.
Okay.
He just would have destroyed them, so you can't.
No,
have
I mean
them.
I would have
Exactly,
placed
yeah.
them, like hidden them on your island. But
Oh, thanks. Then I'd just be running around one day and be like, oh, hey, there.
like
That's
would
where
I
my
have, would I have
30,000
let you
bells are.
believe that I had taken them for like maybe a minute or two? Absolutely, 100%, maybe even a little bit longer. Longer than 5 minutes? Very unlikely. Depends how the bit had been playing earlier.
As soon as I tweeted out being like, don't ever let Cameron come visit your island because he'll steal your money tree, you would have been like, I didn't actually steal it. Here's where you can find it.
Or this would be a better point. I'd be like, oh, you think I took them? You should probably take a better look around your island. And then you'd be like, oh, well, where are they? And then I would have, like, if I had really thought about it, I would have left you, like, little clues about, like, where to find them. But, like, whatever. It didn't happen, so it doesn't have to.
So,
well, here's the thing, though.
moral of story, be very careful if you're letting Cameron on your island.
If you're Trevor, yeah, for sure. I'm much more polite on other people's islands as Trevor. So,
Fair.
I will say, though, that, if you have a haunt, like the creepy doll, let me know. I'll come over and I'll buy it from your island. I'm trying to collect them so I can bury them around my island, so when people come and visit, they're like, oh, cool, maybe it'll be a fossil. And instead it's a creepy doll that they did that.
Nice. And that's like, punishment for people trying to dig up shit from your island.
Oh, I guess that's a good point, yeah. I just wanted to do it because I thought it was funny.
Yeah, no. It's funny that you picked that out, because I went to Harv's Island, which is like, if you haven't played the game, it's basically you go to an island that's just a house that has like pretty much all the items in the game.
Creepy.
You can basically, and you can set it up for like photos and stuff. And I built in there in his basement in particular. I just built like creepy AF dungeon basement with all of like I put like 13 creepy dolls down and like a toilet in the corner, or no, a bucket in the corner, and like almost nothing else in there, and just like concrete walls or whatever. And I was just like, yep, this is my murder den.
Harv is legitimately like, you walk in and he says, oh yeah, over there's my camera stuff and my couch, and it's like, what? And then you walk through the rest of the house and it's brightly colored children themed wallpaper in every other room that's just empty. And it's like, Harv, like, hey, Harv, can you come inside real quick? Oh, you're here? Okay, cool. I'm just going to go run to the bathroom real quick. All of a sudden, Chris Hansen's going to walk through the door and be like, hey, Harv, have it take a seat.
This isn't a great look,
like,
Harv.
It's just like, it is so, like, unbelievably, like, just like, how did anybody just, like, be like, hey, guys, I just don't think that this is a good look for any character in Animal Crossing. Much less a dude who comes to your island to solicit that you come back so he can take pictures of you. Like,
yeah, weird hippy dippy Harv. I have not
Nope,
been back to
I'm
that
never
island
going
since. I
back.
like anytime I go and visit it, like or go use my Nook Miles ticket or whatever. It's always like, do you want to go to Harv's Island? I was like, no, I
He
do
also
not.
keeps you like locked into the enclosure for his house, like that you can't go anywhere else on that island. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so creepy. Like it's just so creepy. Let me know what it like. It lets you know what like a house will look like though once you fully upgrade it. But
Yeah, that was pretty much like, oh, I was like, okay, so that was I think where I first found like, oh, I'll get an upstairs and a downstairs. Cool, very cool. So yeah, that's some more Animal Crossing chat for you. So Frank, especially when you hop into it, I look forward as a longer term fan of the series. I look forward to hearing what you think about it. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for joining me. Let's go around our metaphorical table and make our little plugs. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to shout out, Cameron?
I should be having the last of our PAX stuff finally going up, a month after PAX is over. But
We are still in the same month that PAX happened, everybody.
gosh, that's true.
That's, like,
oh my gosh.
We are.
Yeah.
It's
This feels
so
longer.
much has happened.
Oh, absolutely.
So much has happened.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A month ago, we were at PAX. We were in
And we were like,
Boston.
oh yeah, just make sure
was
make
a
sure
month
you wash
ago.
your hands and don't touch people. Follow basic convention rules. We'll be fine. Everything's gonna be fine, guys. Don't worry. Like it's so much worse now.
Yeah.
It's so much worse.
Little didn't we know we went to the last convention of 2020.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It was it's like somebody was like, yeah, I think PAX East is going to be when all is said and done, PAX East will be the best event of best conference of 2020. It's like, oh, oof. Just like right now, Bad Boys for Life is like the top grossing movie of the year.
Well, I thought it was Sonic.
No, Bad Boys, Sonic is top grossing domestic like video game movie, I think. But Bad Boys for Life is like the top grossing film of the year so far.
I can't wait to see how many Oscars it pulls in.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, you can follow Frank over at Irrelevant Jokes. Anything you want to shout out, Frank?
Nothing in particular, but I guess just kind of the same stuff I've been talking about the last couple times. It's just our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thatnerdy site. Worked on a lot of the previews that are already up, and there's a bunch that are going to be going up kind of in the next week or two, I guess, just depending on whenever you hear this.
Yeah, it's you've got a couple of videos I think that are up and ready to go. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, so we'll get those out this week. But just a lot of those we would have loved to have had up sooner, but given that Frank moved immediately after returning from PAX, kind of delayed some of the timeline on some of those things. But because those are more of the like, hey, we sat down and talked about what this demo was like for some of those games. So yeah. Check that out as well. Check out kind of all of our continuing PAX East coverage, since what else are you going to do? You're all locked indoors like the rest of us. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. Coming out this week, we will have the final episode of Season 2 of that Ultimate Video Game List show, so check that out. It's been great having Scott and Brandon and Zyger and Aaron on Season 2. It's been a ton of fun. They came in with a whole bunch of new games into the conversation and a very different feel and vibe for the panel. I recorded the final episode a couple hours before we sat down and recorded this, so good conversation there in the final episode, as basically the entirety of the final episode was 5 RPGs that they were juggling between. I think the top 7 games this season were all RPGs because that was the makeup of that panel. So yeah, check out that when it comes out later this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, and as I said at the top, maybe even consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Every patron gets early access to a monthly bonus episode of this show, which we're going to try and figure out and sit down and record maybe after this, because I realized, hey, it's at the end of the month. We need to get the one for March out there. So you can check that out. And yeah, as always, thank you for listening. Stay nerdy and be good to each other.